No, you won't. You be nice to your brother or you're fired!
So, during the past week or so, I've been doing anything and everything that's currently available within Legion, whether it be doing the main story mission, recruiting certain characters for my team, collecting those dumbass collectibles because that's apparently irrelevant, or just exploring London and sightseeing what the city has to offer in comparison to its IRL counterpart. I mean, if we're being honest, you basically have the freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want after completing the beginning sequence of the main story. The same thing applies to Watch Dogs, the Bad Blood DLC, as well as 2, and it's basically tradition at this point, and I'd be very sour if it wasn't. There should be no restraints whatsoever when it comes to goofing off in an open world sandbox game and having fun in the long run, because fuck it. As far as the game goes, I'm loving every bit of it, and it has a pretty good tone for the remainder of the storyline with its little twists and turns. However, there is going to be little to no spoilers in this video, since there are a few things that I personally want to talk about that I liked, as well as a few things that did not bode well for me. Basically, this is just the first and last impression of the game from my perspective, and depending on how this plays out, this could be longer than expected, so just kick back and enjoy the show. For those of you who are unaware, the main gist of the game is that London is in a state of peril, with DedSec being set up as the main enemy thanks to the efforts of an organization that goes by the name of Zero Day. Combine this with the fact that a private military organization and a ruthless clan of murderers are out in the streets prowling over their would-be prey, it's safe to assume that London is basically boned, and it's up to you, a new inductee to DedSec, to recruit others to your cause, turn the tide in your favor, and proceed to figure out what in the you can do to return London back to its original state. That's it. That's literally the full game within a nutshell. And with that being said, we can go ahead and get down to the first order of business, being able to recruit people into DedSec. When it comes to the mechanic of recruiting your character of choice, it varies down to what you personally prefer. Would you like someone who's fast? Would you prefer a character who can hack anything or anyone within their radius? Does this person of choice have a specific trait that you need for your own advantage? Can I have someone who doesn't spontaneously die? May I find a character that has a nice weapon and or vehicle attached to them? These types of questions will pop up every now and then when it comes to how you want your roster to be set up the way that you imagine it. It reminds me of that one Forrest Gump quote that revolves around a box of chocolates, I think. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. It's a nice concept since you can literally grab anyone off the street to join DedSec, whether it be a lawyer who can bail out members, a hitman who has a nice set of combat skills, or a drone expert who can take over enemy equipment. But if you take the time to think it over, and I mean actually think it over, then you realize that it's literally like life. If you take that perspective, then you'll realize that there are simply going to be others who will do a better job at certain things than most other individuals within the game. To put it bluntly, there are those who will be completely useful or completely useless for the cause, and once again, it depends on what your personal preference is. Let's be honest with each other for one moment. Any character within the game can simply storm into enemy territory and walk away scot-free, whether it's a professional hitman or an old man with low mobility. The outcome may be completely different from what you've originally anticipated, but regardless, it all falls on you depending on how you read the situation and plan from there. Of course, some players, such as myself, will more than likely recruit characters that will prove to be more beneficial in the long run. If I'm in a chase involving the police, then of course I'm going to want a character who has a nice getaway perk, chase drone immunity, and can clear vehicles out of the way. Simple as that. If I want to try and avoid detection in a heavily guarded area, then I may want a character who has a suitable disguise for said heavily guarded area, and even then, my cover would still be blown not only because I may act out of character slightly, but the stealth mechanic sucks eggs. Do not get me wrong, it's nice and you have many options available to you. I'm just over exaggerating a bit, since if you happen to just make one bad move, despite having on an outfit that literally describes your current profession, then they and their pet drones will remain suspicious of you like it's a game of Among Us. Yeah, I may be a part of DedSec, but at the end of the day, I still have a job. I have bills too, you basic ass bitch. And if that's going to be the case, I'd rather just go in guns blazing because f*** them. But back to my original point, there are certain recruits that are capable of handling certain missions, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to be all try-hard about it. It's okay to have a different variety of individuals with their own traits and unique personalities. The best part about this is that after using a certain character, you can always retire them and find them again in the open world. That is, if they don't happen to die permanently from a random event, or if permadeath is enabled. I have yet to try this shit, and I'm pretty sure I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole until New Game Plus rolls on through. Just saying. Something else that's been bugging me is the weapons included in the game. Now, I'm not going to be a downer and say that the weapons are bad because they're actually real good to use. They're funny. I mean, a nail gun, a paintball gun, a tranquilizer gun, a stun gun, you know, all that kind of bullshit. Very hilarious to use in more ways than one. And we actually have more options for non-lethal weaponry. But the one thing that really is getting to me is being able to use them for any other character. Excluding unique and melee weapons to that specific character, the firearms is what's really getting to me. I will say that I am kind of disappointed that we're unable to give certain recruits the ability to pick and choose which firearm they get to carry around at all times, instead of having the game automatically assign us a weapon at default. Just for quick clarification, this does not include unique weapons that I've already listed beforehand, or even melee weapons like the baton or the wrench. This would only apply to most standard lethal and non-lethal weapons that we have at our disposal. The only way you can get certain weapons is by purchasing them from the gadget menu, or by finding a recruit that has a gun that you really want to use on the field, and trust me, there are a lot that I have yet to use. The main reason as to why I am kind of disappointed is because I really wish that we were given the option, or be, you know, allowed to switch weapons for each recruit that we kept on getting from the streets. Like, if I want to equip someone with a, I don't know, let's just say a light machine gun, and I really wanted to have the option to do so, instead of just having to find a character who has a light machine gun equipped in them at all times, or something along those lines, you know? Really made me wish that the 3D printer would have came back and allowed for us to purchase specific firearms that we want to use at all times, instead of just, I don't know, finding random people who automatically have it. And the funny thing is, not only was it mentioned in the early trailers for the game, but the 3D printer is actually in the save files, but we are unable to use it, unfortunately, at this time. Maybe it will be included in a future update, but who really knows? Probably the reason as to why the game wants for us to recruit as many people as possible, because why not? I mean, I was under the impression that not only would we be able to purchase standard weaponry, but to also customize them as we saw fit. And I'm not just talking about the weapon skins. There's still a lot of things I've yet to discover, so we'll see. As far as the gunplay goes, it feels nice and fluid, which makes certain segments of the game fun. From the way I'm looking at it, it's the same as what we've had in the previous installments, of course, but combined with the combat aspect from the Division series as far as the firefights go, because at most times, it's going to be intense, and if you don't have the right weapon, then you're going to be at a disadvantage and in a world of hurt. In this instance, during one of the main story missions, I had to fend off multiple Albion soldiers with nothing but a paintball gun and a stun launcher with barely any ammunition. You cannot switch weapons on the go, which is a bummer, but you can pick up ammunition from fallen enemies and search loot caches to refill your stock. The stakes are definitely high when dealing with the enemy NPCs, and they do not hold back. They're well coordinated with their attacks, and most will attempt to flank you with their own gadgets at their disposal. I cannot express how much bullshit I went through just going against a captain and their subordinates with the little bite-sized drones and cloaking mechanisms. They will bum rush the fuck out of you if you're not properly prepared. Looking real closely at it, the AI is kind of smart in certain situations, and if they manage to up the ante in the main campaign, then I can only imagine what the online segment will bring to the table. Then again, I was playing on the hardest difficulty at the time since that was a factor, but regardless, it was challenging but very fun, to be honest. As for the hand-to-hand combat, on the other hand, it's a thing. I like it, but it can get annoying real quick, especially if you're fighting multiple people at once. Can't help but feel as though that they channeled a bit of Assassin's Creed combat for this, and if that's the case, it is a doozy. While the attacks may vary from person to person, the results are always going to be the same, more or less. Dodge incoming attack, counterattack. Chain a few hits together, grapple, and break their guard. Chain a few hits together, dodge a sucker punch. Chain a few hits together, grapple, and proceed to perform a basic finisher. That's all there is to it, really. Simple, but a nuisance in the end. The one thing that I probably dislike the most is that when you get caught by a guard or someone within the restricted area, you automatically just start throwing hands, which is funny, but it'll take up too much of your time and you're likely to die because of it. The easiest suggestion to knocking someone out that I can give you is just having your weapon out and just one-tapping them. More than likely, unless they dodge roll out of the way, they'll be stunned for a few moments and you get the takedown prompt almost immediately, unless you have a character whose traits can automatically take down someone without having no restrictions on them. Gadgets like the AR cloak and that one knuckle thing can also make a difference as well. Different strokes for different folks, I guess, is what I could say at this point. At the end of the day, the element of gunplay is fun, but like most others, some of us had to adjust to the controls before taking over the reins completely. The in-game currency is one thing that's completely different in Legion. Unlike the previous installments, you actually have to work to get any funds for DedSec, whether it be doing the main story missions, side missions, or just finding random ETO caches around London. No random events, no armored trucks, no hacking massive amounts of funds for you. The game actually makes you want to explore the area and search for your reward, albeit in a hard way, which there's nothing wrong with. It'd be best for you to save whatever you have and recruit characters that give you certain unique discounts on items that you want, because you will be burning a hole in your pocket, whether it be for weapon skins, clothes, or skins for your vehicles, which is usually hard to come by. What really surprised me, however, is that you can actually buy in-game currency if you're feeling as though you need an extra pick-me-up with, IRL currency for certain shit, and that's where I'm kind of concerned. Transactions always concerns me in video games because there will be something that we absolutely must have, but unfortunately the item of choice that we want will be behind a paywall. I will admit that I actually bought a pack of 500 Watch Dogs credits, the new gold currency that's in the store for like $5 or some shit, just to buy a pack that reveals all the collectibles within the game, not including like the paste up locations, the pubs, and all the other kind of crap. If there were any left for me to find, that is. I've managed to spend a day or two just going through each and every corner of every district, getting everything that I saw before, during, and after the main campaign, but I couldn't help but being a perfectionist and just want to grab every item of interest that I saw. Well, except for a few collectibles due to, certain reasons. Yeah, if there's one thing that really tests my patience, it's the fact that there are so many collectibles within the main game. Believe me when I say that you are not necessarily obligated to find them all, but when there are trophies and rewards locked behind stuff like this, it could turn sour real quick. As you explore, you gradually fill in different parts of the map that are darkened, and once they are revealed, you might be able to unearth certain spots that you have to complete if you want that specific reward. You cannot purchase any in-game maps that allow for you to reveal the location of certain spots that you need to accomplish if you want to unlock, say, a few trophies or achievements like pace-up locations, different pubs, dart locations, or audio logs.
Why?
I'm aware that collectibles are a thing in most Ubisoft games, but I can't help feel as though I need to ask the question of whether or not it's relevant. The lore behind most of the items we collect are interesting, but I'd be a liar and say that a lot of people, or everyone, is generally intrigued by it. But anywho, there's no need to waste any extra IRL currency for in-game currency that you're probably just going to blow in less than 2 minutes unless you want to. I didn't buy the game for you, so I can't necessarily tell you what you can or cannot do. Just some friendly advice is all. And there are a few glitches within the game. Yep, it was bound to happen sooner or later, but hey, why the hell not? As much fun as I have within the game, it's buggy as shit with its own fair share of problems. This is probably what you would expect from most modern game nowadays, especially from Ubisoft. But you can't help but say that it's kind of funny and out of the ordinary, because it's just there, I guess. So far I've experienced a few mishaps here and there on occasion, and I couldn't tell which one was funnier. Being stuck underneath the water after a boat ran me over, or having to deal with both invisible civilians as well as enemy NPCs. And for context, I'm not talking about the enemy types that are able to cloak themselves. I'm talking about an actual persona not appearing on the screen and screwing me over. The game has its fair share of screw-ups, which is usually normal and to be expected, but most people, including myself, have been having major problems with loading into a session, only for it to crash about half an hour later. It impedes on our progress, so I can only imagine how the player base is feeling at the exact current moment. I knew Ubi released a patch about a day or two later addressing some of the issues, but for now, I guess we're just going to have to suffer. Overall, my experience with Watch Dogs Legion is fine for the most part. I'm loving the game, but there are still a few things missing from it. If you were to ask me what element the game is currently missing, I wouldn't even know how to answer. Hell, this whole video was just me picking at random shit that I thought I could talk about in my own way somehow, and I still managed to sound like a rambling moron who just sounds nitpicky at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure that in the near future, possibly around December, is when certain issues will be addressed. That and the online segment will be out during that time, so I just want to be prepared for whatever bullshit hops our way. The game is cool and all, and it's fun with friends, or it will be soon, hopefully, but it still needs some work. Do not let my opinion or anyone else's thoughts on the game deter you from picking it up yourself. And if you're still feeling a bit uneasy about the game, just give it a quick glance to any gameplay that you find and see if it's up your alley. If not, then hey, it is what it is. Other than this, I am going to push myself and bring out some more content over the game in my own way, of course, because why not? It's there. It's literally there. This includes my own take on the various takedown animations that I have been doing in the past, comparison to its predecessors, and probably a few guidelines that I've seen other channels do, even though I don't necessarily like piggybacking off of certain shit. I just want to try to do it in my own way, of course, but that's neither here nor there. Once again, thanks for the recent support. You guys stay safe out there. Love you all, and peace.